One, two, three, four.
What's up, breakfast homies?
And welcome back to another episode of Breakfast with Brothers.
What does he do? Oh man, yeah. Fulcrum, come in.
Fulcrum, come in. Yodi gang.
Fulcrum, come in. Anyway, I'm
Shout out
Beast Mode
the
Material.
Yodi gang.
As we shout out Yodi Gang and come straight into this podcast,
Facts.
Ian and I got nothing but good vibes coming at you today. So prepare the seat of your pants because you're gonna be flying.
Mine are gone, so I'm already ready to go.
Perfect. Well, with that in mind, what are we putting on the young people to today, my guy?
So we're going to be talking about our most influential books, books that have the most influence on us or have given us like a new perspective. I think that's the best way to put it.
That's the perfect way to put it. Adjusted perspective, or helped us learn something that has helped us in our daily endeavors, or just our life in general.
Hell yeah. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I guess one of us could start, and then we could talk about that topic. Because like stuff from my book, might be something that you've already been trying to practice or know about practicing, something like that. So yes, sure, I'll start. For example, My book is The Richest Man in Babylon. If you'll please bear with me for one moment, I might be able to tell you who wrote it. Nope, maybe not. Oh, I might not have it here. No, I do not. I have no idea who wrote it. We'll find that out via Siri later. Please hold. But in the meantime, it pretty much is like a self-help financial literacy book. And it kind of explains the best ways to take your money and put it to work, so to say. It's not necessarily a passive way to make money, but it's a way to ensure that you are tucking away money for the long haul, you're building emergency funds, you're paying yourself first, which is a very important topic, and then also being able to escape debt. Or at least when you do take on debt, you take it on with a purpose, and then when you pay it back, it's most beneficial to you. So whatever money that you are paying back, you're using for the right amount of time up until you have to pay it. So, for example, not giving your money to bill collectors up until it's due. Using that money for the entire time that you have it up until you need it. And that's just, a couple topics that we can, get onto a rant about. But it's a book that helped me be able to figure out what I wanted to do with my money in a smart way, being able to invest and look into other opportunities where I could put my money while I don't have to give it to those greedy debt collectors yet. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to read it to know what I'm talking about, I guess. But just being financially literate helps you go a long way in life. Being able to settle down in a safety net of money in the future when you're old and you can't walk and do anything. Or you want to send your kids, or if you don't have kids, if you want to send yourself through school in the future or something like that. Or even just maybe trying to buy a house. Maybe one day you don't want to go renting apartment to apartment or living, with your parents anymore or something. So you want to put money down for a house. Perfect example of being financially literate and getting your books right, so to say. But yeah, no, I'd love to hear what you have to say about financial fun, Ian, and then also if you've read that book and if you know anything about it.
I have not read the book. It sounds like something I would be interested in, considering that literally today we were just talking about stuff like this. Zach and I, we were talking as brothers do, keeping in touch.
Mm-hmm.
Now he was explaining to me, what was it, the high dividend savings account.
Yeah, yep.
And I guess if you have any questions, Zach could possibly go more into detail with it, but for the time being, I guess we'll just kind of quickly explain it. Just when you put money in, there's the interest rate is much higher than just a normal savings account. So I think the savings account I have right now, I couldn't tell you the percentage of interest that I get on it, but it is very small. It seems in comparison to the high dividend savings account. But that's here and besides the point. That was just what we were talking about. But it just shows. I mean, Zach was talking to me today about things as such. I haven't been the best financially, and it's now about time that I truly hop down and just actually sit and save money and accumulate as much as I possibly can while I'm making good money. So that is definitely helpful, and it's helpful to have Zach, being that he's a much more knowledgeable person than I am when it comes to that. But to the effect of what the book is saying, I think it's quite honestly an important thing for all of us, even if you're a good saver, or at least good with your money, just to consider and to possibly open or reopen avenues that you had either forgotten or have not known about before. So having another route or another path to understand and to take is definitely important when it comes to viewing things and trying to be better with it. I find just in normal thinking, I'm a little bullheaded when it comes to like how I want things done. But when there's another avenue shown to me on how to get something done that is actually much faster and much more beneficial for me, then it's eye-opening. It's like, wow, I wish I would have known this years ago, because then all of this could have been done so much faster in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's all I got to say.
Oh, I thought you were continuing off of that.
No, I just ended with
true,
so.
Because all those different avenues are different eggs in different baskets. It's not taking all of your eggs and keeping them in one basket. You're, I guess, diversifying would be the word. And that's in sometimes a safe thing to do, just in case, for example, something like the stock market happens. Like if you have all of your money tied up in the stock market, then there's a good chance that if that money like defaults, or the bank can't get you that money, then you have other safety nets that you rely on. Like for example, if you have some money in a bank account, you keep some money at home in cash, you got some money on, an investment brokerage like Robinhood, something that's really modern for today's common trader. And then besides that, you also could have stuff tucked away into other IRA accounts, retirement accounts and things like that. And then, of course, people's rainy day funds. That could just be a piggy bank in the corner of their bedroom, or it could be, a savings account at their local bank. And, the cool thing about putting all your eggs in different baskets is that if something goes wrong somewhere, you always, have some type of backup. And it could be a few layers deep. Some people, of course, mind you, this is for people that have extra money to spare. Like, don't make it a point to take the money that you're using for bills and groceries and rent, utilities, etc. right now and try to, find a way to throw it into investments and whatnot. Like this is, something that if you're just getting by, you don't have money to invest, you're already, at that point where it's like, where your money's going. Take care of business first. That's very important. You don't want to run yourself dry by going and trying to invest in the stock market or trade stocks, or do something risky like gamble. I know a lot of people use that as like a way to make more money. But I feel like, at least in my experience, every time I've gone and gambled my money in a casino or some version of that, it's just gone south very quickly. So now, who knows? Maybe you could be a lucky dude or lucky girl and win out every time you gamble. I don't know. Not me, but I don't know. Have you had any luck, Ian? I feel like I'm always just down and out very quickly.
Dude, I have terrible luck. Anything that does go wrong, does go wrong. Or I should say anything that would go wrong, does go wrong. I know my luck is down. I get lucky in other ways. Like I'm you know, with work right now, I'm very lucky to have this job. But in other avenues like gambling or like anything that I can like, oh, you could win something, psych, no. Any chance of winning is completely off the table for me. Anything that I win is like, wow, like I'm surprised I made it here.
Like you
I'm
won a
just so
fair
happy
game
to
and you
be
got to
here.
take home a teddy bear. You're like, yes, let's go.
Yeah, something like that. It reminds me of I've been watching a lot of South Park recently. Just a quick sidebar. When the creators, what is it, Matt and Trey,
Yeah.
they went to like the Oscars or whatever it was, like on acid, and they went in dresses as well. And so their whole thing was to like not talk at all about like the dresses they were wearing. So whenever they were asked, they just completely avoided the question and just said, "Oh, it's just such a magnificent night. Like we're just so happy to be here."
That's awesome.
So I don't know. It came up when I was saying something before, and it just sounded like, you know. Anyways, got terrible luck. Absolutely awful luck. I don't win many things. Never have. And gambling, I just stay away from because I know I'll lose all the money that I put into it. Sure, I might get lucky once, but the next time I go back, I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do great. Lose it all.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I feel that. And I think card games usually do it to me worse. Like slots, like I don't really go big and bet big. I'm usually betting the dollar or two, when I do.
Yeah.
It's when I go and play blackjack or something like that, where I try my hand at poker and it's just like you need so much money to pay in, and then you have the antes, and then if you're playing Texas Hold'em, you have the big and small blinds, and you have to pay into those if you end up in that rotation, and it becomes, like Ian said, having to get lucky with things. If you're not a person who's like a card shark or plays and gambles a lot, it's just one of those things where you got to get lucky and just hope. So if I were you and you're taking care of business and you need money for bills and the like, save your money, pay off your bills, do what you need to do to, get by. Like, by all means, do
Don't
not gamble
gamble.
your money.
Don't gamble.
But I will say, before we transition into Ian's book, the biggest lesson about The Richest Man in Babylon that I use as a like a life-changing perspective ever since I read it was that you pay yourself first, and that basically means that, for example, if you get a paycheck every week, we'll just use a whole number like $1,000. I know that's a lot. I don't get $1,000 a week. If you get $1,000 a week, you take that money and you give it to yourself first. So in this case, if you're saving up for a new car, you pay yourself $250 out of that, and then you have $750 to do whatever you need to do. Pay your bills, feed your kids, pay your light bill, grocery shop, etc. So then you're basically, tightening the budget you have to spend on things that are necessary, things that you need in your life. And then that way you're also guaranteeing that every paycheck you get, you're giving yourself money. And maybe it's not for a new car. Maybe it's just for you're building an emergency fund, so that way, you can send your kid to, a big trip, like going south, and you want to make sure they're good. You're saving away money just to save away money. Maybe you want to buy a new house, or there's a really cool Lego set that's like $1,500, and you just want to tuck away money for it. The
Or
idea
you
is
want to
that
go to Guam or something like that, you know?
you want to go on a big trip. That's the thing. Like, the big idea is that paying yourself first means that you're like your own employee. So like you did all that hard work during the week, and yes, your employer pays you. Yes. But the theory is that you're paying your employee, like yourself. So you're like, oh man, you did a good job that week. Here's so and so XYZ amount of dollars, and then you're ensuring that that money is tucked and tight and everything's okie dokie artichoke. So, of course, read into the book, take a look at I'll pull up the author right now and see what he has to say. It's a pretty short read. Um but it's one of those books where all you could do is do a little bit of learning. Like it's not a fiction book or anything. There's not like a crazy dramatic story or anything. They just have little example stories of someone living in Babylon back in whenever the heck that was, giving little life lessons through livable experiences. I guess that's the best way to say it. Written by George S. Clason. So
All right.
Righteous Man in Babylon. Ian, what do you got for the people today?
So, since I'll probably just choose the one I've like really gotten through and have read. It's been a little bit since I've read it, so if there's any interpretations for anyone who has read it, please let me know, or let us know, whatever. But I'm gonna have to go with a book called How to Die, and it was originally written by Seneca, a Roman philosopher. But it could have been, I don't know who did the translation. I'd have to look that up specifically for the book that I read. But as you can tell by the title, How to Die, it is in essence a guide to life and a guide mainly to death. And I know that seems a little, I guess morose would be, or morose would be the correct term, dark. But truly, it's not a dark book at all. Seneca is quite honestly a very sarcastic man, at least through the interpretations. And it is really an interesting read. So the basis of the book is simply, like I said, it's a guide to dying, accepting one's end of your life.
I was just
but truly,
gonna ask if that was the idea.
yeah, truly, it's more like I stated before. It's kind of like a guide to life and how you should view it, rather than, I don't know, try to prevent what is inevitable. And that seems to be the case a lot today. But we're not getting into that. So the book itself kind of encapsulates the thought that one should not fear death, but more or less welcome it with open arms, like an old friend. And it kind of just goes through, like Seneca kind of has like a dialogue through it. And I know there was one portion of it that kind of stuck with me, and it was more or less on the aspect of how the Romans lived. They kind of drank a lot of wine, had good times, partied a lot, just as though the Greeks did as well. And I'm sure any and all, everyone parties. So that's besides the point. But getting into that, sorry, I'm just trying to like remember everything here. Kind of discussed about like, taking life in the sense of doing what you need to do or what you feel you need to do, and then when you approach death, to not fear, more or less to, how can I put this? Like I said, welcome death, but also not to try and prevent, like I said, the inevitable. Now I'm just kind of circumnavigating myself. God, I'm blowing it right now. Moral of the story is, and this is why you should read it for yourself, is that it kind of changed my own perspective towards everything. A lot of people think to themselves, like, there is going to be a day, and it might be earlier than later, where I will either die, get killed, or, in the worst case scenario, get killed. Incident happens, you get sick, so on and so forth. Take that with what you will, because that's terribly, terribly worded.
Well, I think that was a pretty good way to put it, because it's, like you said, you have to be able to take that perspective and let live. Like, you can't just be existing and expecting things to just be awful. You pretty much just live your life, and it doesn't even have to be to the fullest. You just live your life, simply that. In that, if you're going to be sickly, in the next few months, or you're going to get into a fatal car accident in the next couple of years, it's one of those things that you can't just plan for. They're things that just are out of your hands. They're out of your control. Of course, there's plenty of preventable steps to take as far as, if you don't want to die of diabetes, then, maybe you have a controlled diet, eat less sugar, and be weary of what you're ingesting, or if you don't want to get into a car accident, maybe you're very paranoid and you stop driving a car altogether and avoid any roadways. I'm not sure, this is just a lot of exampling. But of course, I feel like for everyone's live life scenario, it's going to be different situationally. And being able to do that and just live each day in that moment, that's about as much as you can do. And I don't know what exactly, what did you say his name was?
Seneca.
I don't know exactly where, Seneca was trying to take it with his sarcasm and expressing his understandings of the idea of death and just letting it exist. Death happens to everything, everyone, every organism, etc. So I feel like, not that I'm speaking in Seneca's words here, but I'm sure in some light he was trying to say that it's inevitable. And you tell me if that's accurate or not.
No, yeah, you're right. Sorry, I don't know why I'm blanking so bad. I had it all in my mind.
It'll come.
But yeah, Seneca kind of describes it, like you said, as inevitable. Described it as more or less a step towards human life. It is just another step that we need to take. So view it as another milestone. So obviously we age as normal. Everyone thinks like, 18, and then I can start doing stuff. Or at least,
Sure.
I guess you can say 16, 17, I get my license. And then some people celebrate Sweet 16, so on and so forth. And it's like, it's 21. Now I can do everything. And then it's, after that, it really doesn't matter all too much. Obviously, when you hit like 30, 40, 50, like, the start of the next tier, those are a little bit like of milestones as well. And then like 50 is over the hill and so on and so forth. But I would say milestones as in like, you've gone through schooling. That's one milestone. You lived your childhood, you had your teens and your early 20s, and then you have the rest of your life. In essence, you can continue to do whatever you'd like to do. That is completely up to you and how you want to take it. And then obviously you get towards your elderly years and you live them however you'd like to live them. And then one way or another you do pass away. And
Sure.
For those that are unlucky enough, they die earlier. And those that are lucky live into old age. So the point is that it's just another step in human existence. Everyone has to do it. No one is exempt from it. People will try to be exempt from it. They'll do anything and everything to prevent, in this day and age, prevent aging, prevent all this stuff. And, or like, a lot of people do Botox to, get those wrinkles out and look perfect. Yeah. But in truth, it's just, everyone's still going to, die. And I think that was really just the heavy notion Seneca was was applying to the entire passage. Just viewing it not as something that is heavy and, terrible, dark, like, we're going to die. No, just
right.
We're going to die, and there's nothing else you can do about it. That's kind of the essence of the book. Obviously, I butchered it a little bit. Please, if you guys would like to read it, look into it and enlighten yourselves with it. Because, like I was saying, it gave me kind of a different perspective. Because anyone thinks about that. It's like, sometimes it just pops into your head and it's unexpected. It's like, time is of the essence for my life. And it's just even as I've aged now, and I'm very young still, I'm only 24. As I've kind of gotten a little bit older, it's like, there goes my childhood. Like I'm a full-blown adult now. Like this, I've started adult life. I have like a couple of years ago, but when I was in college, it didn't feel like I was really in it, and so it didn't really feel like it until like around last year.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, I'm completely separated from my childhood. Like I'm now like a full blown adult doing all this stuff, living my life. Um, whether it's good or bad doesn't matter. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've just thought about it much more, and I'm sure other people are feeling the same way. Um, just as they continue to age, and I'm sure you feel the same way, Zach. I don't know if you've thought about it or at least it's popped into your head or something, but what do you got to say about that?
I mean, there's been times in the past where I've been anxious about dying and what that looks like in the future. But then there's also been times where I've thought about it, and you and I both have lost the same relatives, because we're brothers and whatnot. And I think about, where they've been at as far as what they lived and what they went through, and what led up to them passing and everything. And then I think about, how fast that came, that day, from when we knew them when they were alive and doing their thing, and when we would visit them, and then to them just being a distant memory. And as fast as that happens, it's also extremely slow, because I think about the times where I was a kid and I was going through school, I was playing sports, learning to play instruments, etc. And I think about all that time that it took to do those things and experience them. And yes, like right now, I can be like, holy balls, that flew by. But also looking back at those moments and remembering certain little occasions, it's also just like, wow, this like took forever to do, or I was stressing about this way more than I should have, or it was being in that moment for what it was worth. It felt like eternity. But in reality, and what it looks like right now, those moments were ripping by. And I guess the cool thing about that is, for every moment that I'm wondering, oh, what am I doing with my life? Or what should I do in the next 4 hours from now? Should I do this or that, or should I do this first and then do this, save this for tomorrow? And I'm always thinking, 7 steps ahead, or at least trying to. And for the most part, that doesn't do me any good. I'd rather be living in the moment and, letting my calendar or my notifications, taking me throughout my day, things that I set up as my past self,
Yeah.
for my future occasions. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes being in a routine is difficult. But those moments where I get to experience those updates where it's like, oh, I got to do this. Or moments where surprises happen and adventure gets to kick in place of something that I had planned. And it's like, all right, I guess we're switching gears. Those little moments that happen and twist into my timeline are things that I live for. Are things that are not necessarily, what I had anticipated, but things that are all a part of life. And I think that's the coolest thing, because why would I worry about when I'm going to die when I have all this other cool stuff that I could be thinking about, or trying, or experimenting with, or researching even? There's just so much more things to be thought about, or appreciated, or grateful for, or praying about, that there's not enough time in a day to, have too much worry about things that you can't control. And I'm sure Seneca spoke a lot on, trying to control your mental and being in, the proper headspace to even take on a thought like death. But it's definitely not for everybody. And he probably talks about that too, I feel like, where um, accepting it is a long haul. It's not something that you could just flip a switch on, like, yeah, I'm going to die eventually, I'm good to go. Like, I don't think it took me, you know, a couple days to figure it out. I felt, probably anxious about it for, a couple years, maybe a little less than that, just thinking about what that would look like, or, oh my gosh, what if this happened? What would I do then? Or, worrying about what my significant others would do. Not my significant others, my close family would do if something had happened, and all of that and what comes with it. But, I'd love to hear, what that looks like to you, and, what that might mean, and what Seneca was saying. So,
Yeah, no, it was definitely been, or definitely has been, kind of like a daunting idea, especially with dealing with relatives that have passed, or family and friends that have passed. It's definitely like a very confusing thing. Obviously, when you're younger, you don't really understand it, and it doesn't impact you as hard as it does once you fully grasp the idea of what has happened. Um, and I mean, obviously, I'm sure many of you, and if you're lucky, um, you know, many of you haven't had to deal with a family member passing, but more than likely, you have. It's confusing. Like I think Zach said, 1 minute they're there, 1 minute, the next minute, they're gone. It goes by very fast, and sometimes you take it for granted. And then you view yourself, and it's like, man, like what am I doing? After you've kind of processed everything and gotten through, losing that family member, you begin to look inward and say, am I kind of viewing this the right way? Am I doing everything that I should be doing? Am I living enough? Should I be slowing down? Should I be speeding up? What should I be doing? So it's a lot that comes at you, and I believe within the book, it kind of, I don't know if it's a part of Stoicism or if it's in and of itself, standalone. But I believe it's kind of a portion of Stoicism. Stoicism has a similar concept. It's mainly based in logic. And now a lot of people think Stoics are like stern. They don't feel any emotion, nothing there. They're just a blank slate. No, that's not. That's completely and utterly strict Stoicism if you follow it to the T. But within Stoicism, it's more or less learning to control your emotions and allowing others to only see portions or very little. And that doesn't mean that you have to in any way withhold your emotions. Some people find it is much more rewarding in that aspect. Other people find that they like to express themselves and, show their emotions with their, actual face.
Right.
So within the idea of Stoicism, of understanding and controlling emotion while also logically thinking, the idea of Seneca's idea of death very much coincides with the idea of Stoicism overall. It's more or less understanding and logically thinking about how things are, and like I said, it's he based it off of another milestone in your life or another event that is happening throughout your human life.
Sure.
Thinking about it logically, like this will happen. I need to be aware of it. But at this moment, it is not something that I am worried about or that I fear. It's more or less something that I will accept once I get there.
Right.
And like I stated at the beginning, it's like welcoming an old friend. Like how's it going? Be prepared for it. Understand that it will happen at some point. But right now, live your life as you will, and how you would like, without worry of that happening. That's kind of like the overall essence.
It's a tough pursuit, but it's noble. So hopefully you guys got some decent reading material out of that. And, I know they're both going to be tough reads, regardless of who's listening, because it takes a lot to be able to adjust perspectives and be able to mull over those thoughts. It's more than just reading. It's also being able to live it, think it, do it, express it. It's a chore, being able to read books and be able to make your mind more open to different things. But without further ado, I'll let Ian close us out here. I know we're cruising on past, but thanks for coming regardless. And let us know if you got other books that you guys want to hear about, or maybe recommendations that we could send your way, because we'd be happy to talk more about them.
Yeah, I'd also like recommendations. I don't know if Zach would, but I'm sure he would. If you have any books that you think we would enjoy, or if you would like to share, it doesn't have to be something we would enjoy entirely. We could just be introduced to something new. If you have any books that you'd like to share, please let us know. As always, put it in the comments and such, or if you know us personally, reach out to us, let us know. Give us the good word. We love to read another book. In today's age, it's tough with so much going on, but truthfully, I'd always like to read a good book and actually be invested in something. But on that note, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We appreciate you guys. If you're listening on YouTube, check us out on Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, check us out on YouTube. As always, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the flippy flop. Peace.